Good morning, Arnie. How are you?
Scott, I'm doing really well today, except I'm a little hungry.
Okay.
You know, I've been on a diet since the mayor. We did the show a few weeks ago with the mayor, and he kind of shamed me into it. And I've been on a diet since the New Year's was my New Year's resolution, and I've lost 20 pounds.
And you look fantastic.
You know, so I'm feeling good. I'm looking good. But, you know, in my heart, as I know in your heart, you know, we're foodies, right?
Right.
We love food, you know. We think about food. We talk about food. And obviously, many of us pay the price for it over time. I know you jog on a regular basis just to, so you can be able to eat what you like. But today, I'm here to break the story of a massive global food conspiracy. Right on What Do You Know? You know, it's probably led by the likes of Anthony Bourdain and Gordon Ramsay and, you know, maybe Emeril Lagasse or Wolfgang, and even the late Julia Childs from her grave. I think she was part of this. You know, it isn't an accident. You know, think about this for a minute. It isn't an accident that the revered Culinary Institute of America is referred to as the CIA. Right? To me, that's not an accident. That's purposeful.
Yep.
I think, in fact, they're a secret society that get together and decide what we should be eating. Not our mothers and fathers.
Right.
Not dietitians. These guys and women get together and they kind of figure out, you know, what we're eating. Do you think we eat tilapia by accident? I don't even know what tilapia is. I've never heard of anybody saying,
I didn't catch a tilapia.
Hey, Scott, let's go down to the river and go catch a couple of tilapia today. Who knows what that is? But we're eating it. It's on menus all over America. And 10 years ago, it didn't exist.
You're right.
This is some kind of, you know, it's some kind of bioengineered food. I don't even know what it is. You know, but we're eating it. When we were kids growing up, we thought eating food from cans was cool. Remember Popeye, spinach out of a can?
Yes.
You know, and then after that, we had Swanson's TV dinners. That was kind of cool to have a TV dinner with that awful fried chicken.
Did you ever look at the ingredients?
No. Or the evil hamburger helper, you know, whatever that was. In some homes, they served it without even the hamburger, just the helper, you know. But now,
tuna helper.
Now you go into a restaurant. Doesn't matter whether you're going into one in Missoula, Montana, or in New York City, or in Paris. You open the menu, and there's pork bellies. I mean, we didn't have pork. I mean, who knows what that is?
Pork
right?
bellies were traded, weren't they?
Yeah,
on the commodity.
It's a commodity. What are pork bellies? You know, sushi. Everybody's eating sushi, raw fish. We had a kid. It was called lox, right? Now it's all this fancy raw fish called sushi. You know, everything is some kind of antioxidant. Eat this because it's antioxidant.
Right.
It's GMO free. It's, you know, and there were other phases to this evil conspiracy. At times, they had things like blackened. Everything was blackened. Remember, blackened redfish, blackened steak. They were blackening everything. Now they serve that spicy Mexican sauce on everything, right? Even
or siracha.
Sriracha. I don't know. What was that?
That's Korean, I think.
Well, whatever it is. I went to restaurants my whole life and never heard of that.
Never heard
stuff,
sriracha.
Right? So, you know, I'm reminded when I think about this of the Woody Allen movie Sleeper, when he comes back after being frozen for all these years and finds out that everything that you learned to eat that was supposed to be good for you was bad for you, and everything bad for you was supposed to be good for you. So I think these guys are involved in trying to figure out what we ought to be eating. So today on the show, I thought it was going to be good to get to the bottom of this, bottom of this conspiracy. And we got an interesting guest today. We got Jacob Leatherman, and he is the executive chef at the Triple Creek Ranch in Darby, which was recently picked as the #1 hotel resort in the world. Not just by, you know,
Travel and Leisure.
The experts in the industry say this is the best place down in little old Darby, Montana. You know, and he is the executive chef there. And we're going to want to talk to him to know what we should be eating. And more importantly, what we're going to be eating, you know. So, you know, what does the future hold? What are we going to be eating in the future? What are the trends? What's going on? And a little bit about what the lifestyle is, because, you know, you and I can't afford to, you know, to be guests down in Triple Creek. It's a pretty high-end,
although we
kind of ritzy
angle
place.
Our way.
We're going to try to figure our way in.
Right.
But I want to know what Jacob is cooking down there for the rich and famous, what the current trends are, and what we ought to be thinking about eating in the future.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'll tell you what, though. It's so important, right? Because think about this. We're both in Missoula, Montana. And you travel a fair amount, a lot. So you get to eat out. since I've been here for 3 years, my trips back to New York have been culinary kind of smorgasbords. I mean, it has been incredible.
Right.
I can't get enough.
Right.
So I have been able to adapt by, a couple of regional trips to Seattle or to Portland or to Boise even, where I can get a little better
Let me say one word
food.
to you. Amazon. You can get anything, as you know. We can get anything
You
from
can get
anywhere in
anything.
the world,
You-
almost overnight,
Yeah, ladies.
which can help us here. And then the restaurants in Missoula, let's face it, are getting better. It's becoming more of a foodie town. It's a college town. There are good
Yes.
choices, but because we don't have a large constituency of ethnic subgroups,
Yes.
we don't have the range. We don't have a Lebanese community, so we don't have Lebanese food, right? We don't have a very big Greek section. We have some, we have some Greek food, but not a big.
It's bigger than what I would think, right?
But
There's about 4 or 5
right.
good places.
There's no soul food places.
There's
in
definitely
Missoula.
no soul food.
Yeah, you got,
By the way, I told you the best barbecue is in Frenchtown.
you like that place in Frenchtown? I think
Montana
that's
Q.
good. Yep, exactly.
Mike. Shout out to you, Mike.
So we're going to have Jacob Leatherman, who's from Cincinnati, Ohio, who chefed with one of the great chefs in Cincinnati, Jean Robert, who my nephew actually is a chef. My nephew's a chef at the Westin Hotel in Scottsdale, Arizona, and he chefed also with Jean or clerked or apprenticed with Jean Robert, who ran the Masonette and Pagal's, and now has some other great restaurants in Cincinnati. And he went on and studied in New York, and now he's been down for 11 years at Triple Creek Ranch. Jacob's going to come on and tell us what we ought to be eating.
He's great. This is going to be a great guest. I can't wait. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, we'll have Jacob Leatherman from the Triple Creek Ranch on What Do You Know here on Newstalk KGVO. We'll be right back. Okay. Hey, Jacob, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing really well.
So, Jacob, what's it like? We were talking about Triple Creek Ranch being the #1 hotel by Travel and Leisure in the world. What does it feel like being the chef for the rich and famous?
Oh, it's been great. It feels great. It's been a really good ride, and up to this point, I mean, it's been terrific. Just can't say enough of how much the ranch has grown and just gotten to this level, and I'm just blown away by it.
So how long have you been there? Tell our listeners a little bit of your backstory. I know that you worked at the Masonette in Cincinnati, and you became addicted as an early child to Skyline Chili, and that's your career. But tell us a little bit about your backstory. What was the path all the way to getting to Triple Creek Ranch?
Well, I guess it started in college. I was going to Ohio State for a few years, and always loved to cook. Actually, while I was going to school, just dabbled in things here and there, and just was always interested in it. And then just one day, just decided, hey, I really want to get into this culinary thing, and went off to New York City and enrolled in the French Culinary Institute, which is called the International Culinary Center now, and so left Ohio, went to New York, did that, and worked in New York for a while, and I was kind of done with the city thing, so kind of retreated.
Wait, before you leave New York, tell us what it was like to be in New York as a kid from Ohio, somebody who's interested in culinary arts, and then you're in the Mecca.
The foodie capital of the universe.
Oh yeah, and as a kiddo, it was pretty wild. It was a good age though. I mean, I got to see a lot of things. It was a little overwhelming at first, but I got to meet some really cool chefs.
Such as?
Met some cool friends. A big mentor of mine who was a teacher named Chef Arnie. He was just an old school French chef, and took me under his wing and really, kind of just showed me the way of the reality of a kitchen and how things worked. And being young and
Did you do any internships at any of New York's, like Daniel or?
Yeah, I did an internship Marcus Samuelson's Aquavit. I did do one at Danielle after.
You did.
Actually, while I was at Triple Creek, I went over there and did a stage there years later. So I did that also. But yeah, New York, what an amazing place. I actually ran around and delivered wine in the West Village for a while too. So.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did. I did all sorts of jobs.
Were you on any cool catering jobs that you could talk about? Like, because I know that every night in New York is a
party.
There's a party. There's an opening. There's a closing.
Oh yeah. And I did a lot of like chef demos, helping different chefs out at different markets and things like that, and help them, crank out some really cool plates. So yeah, I did that too.
And so then from New York, what happened?
From New York, then I just kind of retreated back to my hometown, Cincinnati. Did some different kitchen jobs. Worked a bunch of different jobs just to get a lot of exposure and work for different chefs, and that was cool. I actually learned how to do some baking, so that was really, really awesome. And then I just one day again just said, hey, I always loved it going out west as a kid, going backpacking and camping, and got a job at a guest ranch in Colorado called the Home Ranch.
Right, the famous Home Ranch.
That's right. Yep. Good. Clyde Nelson's been the chef there for over 20 years, so I learned a lot from him. I was working in his kitchen for just over 5 years, and then worked briefly in Idaho, and then found my way to Triple Creek.
So you've been there, 10 years?
Yeah, it'll be 11 years this next month, March, yeah.
And you have to prepare a different menu every day, is that correct?
Yeah, that's what we strive to do. Every day we do a different menu and get really cool ingredients, and keeps us all on our toes, but our guests love it. Gives them a really cool variety while they're here.
Guests come from all over the world. They end up in Darby, Montana, a speck on the map. Where do you get all these great ingredients down in Darby? I mean, I've lived in the Bitterroot Valley.
Sure.
It's mostly potatoes and meat. And, where do you get this stuff?
I've got really good purveyors from all over the country and regionally. Seattle, Portland, the Washington area on the coast. But in the summertime, we've got our own orchards, we've got our own garden, and have a lot of really cool local growers. It's getting more and more popular in the valley. Go to the Hamilton Farmers Market. I've got some really cool growers who I put an order in and pick it up at the market on Saturday, and we just get a lot of cool variety of different things, anywhere from fresh strawberries to, like what you were saying, good old taters and root veggies and greens.
Right. So you cater to the the travelers from around the world. The Triple Creek Ranch prides itself on a customized experience there. So, do you get a lot of requests from guests for things that aren't on the menu, and how do you respond to that?
Oh yeah, all the time. Since it is a set menu, sometimes people, they come out here to the ranch. Sometimes they just want a really nice steak and a potato, and and then of course we always cater to people with special needs, like dietary needs. Like, right now I've got people who can't actually have anything that grows out of the ground. so we're dealing with that. We do that, and
if you can't get it from growing out of the ground or walking on the ground, what are you feeding them? Air?
Yeah, air, and some animal stuff. Cows and meat, and dairy's fine.
Sure.
I think we'll be good with dairy.
Give us what is the most popular preparation of steak at the Triple Creek?
Oh wow! Ooh, we do so many cool preparations.
I want to know because I love steak.
Yeah.
He's trying to get a meal prepared for tonight.
Oh
get
yeah.
Himself mentally in the.
Yeah, I'm trying to get into a meat mine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, just a nice ribeye steak. I mean, we cut all of our stuff here in house. So, we like to do really cool different rubs. Like, I've got this really cool red Korean chili paste that we like to play with on that, and do like a little Asian setup, or we get some porcinis, dry them, and then grind them into a powder, and do like a porcini rub steak. Anything from that to, if we get some beautiful beef short ribs,
Jake, you're killing me.
Talk about food.
I've been on a diet since January 4th. I've lost 20 pounds, and my mouth is watering here just listening to you.
Time to stock up.
I know. So what's the most unusual request that you've gotten from somebody?
Most unusual request. Well,
cooking, that is.
Yeah, cooking. Yeah.
I would say, anywhere from just like last minute cakes. People sometimes they just like want a cake at the last minute because they want a special birthday thing, or maybe it's they hear of huckleberries a lot here, so we always have huckleberries. And also like I was saying, some people just want the simplest, easy. Some people just want a big plate of mac and cheese because they just they just had some nice wines.
Right, they're on a holiday, and that's what they want.
Yep, they sometimes we potato skins.
Sure. What's the biggest steak you cut for anybody that they actually ate?
Oh yeah, we had this guy. He came in a few years ago, and he challenged us. He challenged us to cut the biggest steak. Yeah, exactly, the biggest steak we could cut him. So we ended up cutting him about, I don't know, it might have been a 4 or 5 inch steak, and took a long time to cook, but he was patient and gave it to him, and he pretty much ate the whole thing.
He ate the whole thing?
Ate the whole thing.
You know, there's that place in Texas that where if you eat what's on the plate, it's free?
Yeah, I know. That's crazy.
It is. And I gave him a pat on the back and said, hey, well, we can do it again if you want. That's no problem.
So where do you get your inspirations? Coming up with 365, menus a year isn't easy for even a team of folks. And I forget, how many people do you have out there working with you?
In the kitchen here, about 15.
Right. So where do you get your inspiration? How do you figure out what you're going to be doing?
Yeah, I've got a great team that's around me. I've got great people who've been on my team for a few years now and quite some time, and we all get inspiration from each other. We throw ideas off of each other. I couldn't do it without them. And also just being here, being on the ranch. It's beautiful around here. Rivers. Just awesome inspiration.
Right. I hear they have TV reception now in Darby. So do you watch any?
We just
cooking?
got some.
Yeah, got some. Do you watch any cooking shows? Do you follow Bourdain or Gordon Ramsay or any of those guys and see what they're turning out these days?
Yeah, I'll dabble into some of those shows, and I get a lot of books from different chefs. That's how we get a lot of inspiration, also. But yeah, I like that Bourdain show where he's traveling. Really, I learn a lot from his travels. And Ramsay, he's a pretty passionate guy.
Right.
So I can really respect that.
So I have this paranoid fantasy that all of you culinary geniuses get together and say, over wine, we're going to force everybody to eat kale this year, right? All of a sudden, I don't even know what kale was, and it's on everybody's menu.
Oh, yeah.
And the insidious pork bellies, whatever the hell they are.
Sure.
And, and in Montana, I never went fishing with anybody that ever said, let's go out and catch us a couple of tilapia.
Yeah.
So what are you guys planning for us now? Where are things heading in food? What are the trends that you see coming?
Well, I think right now, just in the whole food culture, in the States and, even globally, I think being more sustainable, finding as many local products, as we can, on our orchards and our gardens, supporting local farmers, ranchers. I think that's really what, that's a big deal right now. No GMOs,
right.
All organic, healthy, sustainable products that, you wouldn't even think about that trend happening, about maybe 8 or so years ago. But now it's become such a big deal because people are, more worried about health concerns in their diets and just feeling better.
What about the molecular movement in food, you know, that you read about? And we don't see much of it in Montana, but in other more developed societies, they seem to be moving in that direction.
Yeah, oh yeah, and you know, we've dabbled in a couple of those things here. You know, we'll play with some molecular kits that we get, and we kind of dabble here and there with making like some pearled, like balsamic pearls, and just little things to just accentuate little amuse-bouches or little bites that we play around with. But you know, I think it used to be a really big deal,
right.
And now I think, I mean, just from traveling as where I have, I mean, you'll get that at places, but I think people are kind of getting more towards more just good, solid, comforty food.
Well, you know, and that's you know what we all enjoy.
Oh yeah,
sure.
In the end, yes.
And do you get a lot of? I mean, people. There are, you know, you read when you're waiting at the checkout counter at the grocery store. Every magazine has some article about a diet. Right, you know, the caveman diet, the keto diet. I mean, well,
sure.
are there I mean, do you hear a lot of that from guests that come in and say we only want low carb, or only want, you know, and are you able to accommodate that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, it used to be the no carb diet, and then sometimes it's the paleos, the diets, but you know, gluten free is really at the forefront right now.
Sure.
And people just eating more, they say, cleaner foods. Mm-hmm. So things without, like, necessarily a lot of dairy in them.
I like dirty foods myself, but if you're telling me I have to eat cleaner, I'll try to accommodate that.
Hey, there's a healthy balance right there, you know.
But what you're referring to is, removing all of the polysyllabic ingredients from foods. Correct?
Yes.
Right? Like the monosodium cartamate or whatever it is.
Right. And
monosodium glutamate.
Yeah, MSG, yeah, exactly. And there's some weird phosphates and some different things too. But yeah, we just like just good, solid food that hasn't been messed with too much, you know? That's a lot of people are wanting that because they just feel it's like at the end of especially our guests, they're here, they're eating 3 meals a day, and we just like to have a good balance so you feel good at the end of your night.
So I understand that you do have benevolent owners there. The Barretts are benevolent, and they give you a day off every so often. Do you cook for yourself? And if you do, what do you like to cook for yourself?
Oh, it's super
and your
simple.
Family.
Oh, it's super easy, super simple. You know.
When you're at home, what are you making for your family?
Oh, a lot of eggs.
Right.
We like to do eggs. We like to do just, we make a lot of different kinds of nachos. We like avocados. We like Mexican food. We do a lot of Mexican food because you can do it family style and you can do it up real easy. I have a smoker in the back, and we like to do, just real simple, like chicken legs, anything,
Sure.
Anything as easy as that. So,
do you have children that you cook for?
I don't. I don't have any kiddos, not yet.
So you do the cooking when you're not at the office, so to speak.
Yes. Yep. I do, and I like to entertain. I like to have some good friends over, and yeah.
So let me ask you, where would you like to travel on a culinary excursion? If you could, I know you have traveled, but if you were taking a trip, if you had a few weeks off right now, where would you like to go to experience what's happening in the culinary world?
Just talking and studying up a little bit. I think. Over there in Vietnam, Korea, more of the Asian influenced places, even Hong Kong. But just that whole big gamut over there to me has always been, I've been real curious, and I've read about a lot of chefs who have gone over there and just been so inspired, and they bring different ideas over, to where they are in the States or in Europe.
Well, it's very funny you should mention that because, I spent a lot of time in Asia and particularly in China. And you go to China now, and not only do your hosts want to take you out to non-Chinese restaurants. I mean, it's funny. They don't want to take you to a Chinese restaurant. They want to show you that they're cosmopolitan, and so they take you to Italian restaurants and American restaurants. But almost all the big hotels that are opened in Shanghai and Beijing and the Shenzhen, they have a very international restaurant cadre in those places. They're actually, it's hard. Most of them do have something that's Chinese, but everybody's touting bringing in Italian chefs and French chefs and American chefs and others. So it's hard to find a good Chinese meal in China.
Yeah, I mean that's great because I mean just the whole world, culturally, with cuisine, it just began just to be a huge melting pot. And I think that's just so important. And it's cool. Maybe you can find the best pizza of your life in China. Who knows?
I had pizza in China, in Shenyang. That was not good.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe not.
I had a pastrami sandwich in Hong Kong, and it was terrific, by the way.
Hong Kong is international.
They were flying it in every day from the Carnegie Deli in New York, so it was pretty good.
He's kidding.
Nice.
He's kidding.
And hey,
you're not kidding.
No, I'm not kidding. It's true.
Hey,
there's a great New York style deli in the basement of a hotel in Hong Kong that brings in deli every day from New York.
What do they call Chinese food in China? It's not Chinese food.
No,
it's food.
It's food. Come eat. So I want to get back to Triple Creek. You get your ingredients, you can source them, you can bring seafood in fresh and bring it down, from the airport. And do you kind of have, how far ahead do you plan your meals? Because some of the stuff isn't so easy to get.
Right. Yeah, and how we plan them is just around the ingredients that we have in the house or that we're going to be getting in or what's seasonal. Usually, like for the menu for the dinner menu that night, I'll just come in that day, and then we see everything we have, and we put a menu together. It's a really cool deal. So
it's much more spontaneous and creative and real time, which is kind of exciting.
Yes. Yeah, and it is. And see, a lot of times the guests will want maybe a menu a little bit earlier before, and we'll get it done. But sometimes I'll just talk to the guest one-on-one, and I'll say, well, here's some things that are going to be on the menu, and we're still conceptualizing some ideas, and that's exciting.
So on a typical night, how many meals are you serving?
Typical night, anywhere from about 50, anywhere from 40 to 50.
That's not bad.
No, it's not bad, but it's still a lot. It's more than feeding your family.
Yeah, I mean, it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We're doing multiple courses. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of thought, and it's a lot of dishes.
So if I won the lottery and I was going to check in there and I was coming tonight for dinner, what's on the menu today? Just to give us an idea what you're serving.
We've got some beautiful marrow sea bass from Hawaii, some fresh marrow sea bass, which is it's just like butter. It's really beautiful stuff. This stuff actually came in
yesterday.
Yeah. Yep. Yes. Came in yesterday.
Because he's going to try to ambush the delivery wagon one of these days. Don't give Scott too many details, right? Because he's going to. I can see it in his eyes already.
Right. Head him off at the pass.
Exactly.
Yep.
So you got sea bass on the menu. What else you got?
We got some beautiful local squab breasts that we smoked here in house from Great Falls, from this really cool guy who he hand feeds them, finishes them on corn. They're gorgeous birds. Also, we've got some really nice wild Mexican prawns on the menu tonight, and we're doing a smoked. We got for dessert. We're doing a smoked kaffir lime curd for a pie.
Right. You understand, because you've lived there long enough, that half the people that are in the Bitterroot that may be listening to the show who are driving home from Missoula for their dinner, they're swinging into the Cenex in Lolo and are getting corn dogs that have been sitting there under the light for about an hour and a half. That's the alternative to to what you you're serving up down there. We're very jealous.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, that stuff hits the spot sometimes too. Yeah. When I'm heading up to Missoula.
Yeah, I know. I did that trek very, very often. Are there restaurants in Missoula that you like, that you think are good, that you look forward to going to when you come up here?
Oh yeah, I've always loved the Redbird.
Yes.
I really enjoy their food. It's creative. It's fun. It's delicious. That one. 5 on Black.
Yes.
I really like that because it's quick and it's just fresh and good.
Yep.
Every time I go up there.
They're going to be franchising that. They got such an overwhelming response to 5 on Black that they're going to be opening a number of them.
Oh wow!
In Bozeman, right?
I believe it because it's quick, but it's consistent and it's not heavy. It's just nice. It's fresh. And see another one I really like. I go on the Old Post occasionally.
Sure.
I like going there. And I like to get oysters at the DoubleTree.
Yep, those are all good choices. Let me tell you the level I'm at. I am stoked because in a couple of months they're opening a Popeyes on Reserve Street,
wow.
and we haven't had that kind of fried chicken out in these parts in a long time.
Oh I love Popeyes. There's one where I'm from called Church's. I don't know if it's still there.
Sure, I know where Church's.
I remember that as a kid. We always loved that.
Well, when I was going to college and graduate school in Cincinnati, it used to be going to Frisch's for a big boy.
There you go.
And it was obviously Skyline Chili for chili dogs and 5 ways.
Oh yeah.
And then we used to go to Walt's for ribs.
Nice, yep. And the Montgomery Inn.
Montgomery Inn for ribs, which was great also.
Yep, and Grater's for ice cream.
Grater's, or Aglamese's. Did you ever go to Hyde Park to Aglamese's? Mm-hmm. That was amazing ice cream.
Yeah,
really?
there's one on Montgomery Road, too, there, where I kind of live near Blue Ash, Montgomery. So there is one Aglamese's over there, too.
And do you know that they are now carrying, up here in Missoula at Fresh Market, they're carrying Grater's ice cream?
Really?
Yep. If you're ever up here,
how is that possible?
I'm there.
Because they're owned by Kroger. They have a connection to Kroger's.
Is that right?
Grater's ice cream.
Yeah.
Or if we ever get an invite down, if we're ever on if you're ever lowering your standards, and you got guys like us coming in, we'll bring you down some Grater's ice cream.
Oh yeah, and you know what? I've had guests from Cincinnati who stay here or eat the chef's table. I get in a good conversation. They've actually shipped me Grater's ice cream.
Well, I'm telling you, it's in the stores now. They don't have every flavor, but they have mint chocolate chip, which was always a standby, and about 4 or 5 others. So if you get Jones in for Grater's, give me a buzz and I'll get some brought down to you.
Well,
perfect. I'll take you up on that. Absolutely.
Well, Jacob, here's the interesting thing, Arnie. Jacob has direct line and access to all these purveyors of fine foods. Mm-hmm. We could actually bribe him to get us some of the things that you and I miss from back east.
Well, I did get a shipment today, I got a shipment from Langer's in L.A. of their double-crusted rye bread and 2 pounds of their pastrami, which is excellent. I probably can lure Jacob up to Missoula just by sharing that. We'll trade. We'll trade some of your Chilean sea bass for my pastrami.
Arnie,
there you go. I'm always up for bartering. That's what we do here.
Jacob, when I first met Arnie, he brought me a couple of Hebrew National salamis just as a nice welcome gift, and also black cherry, my favorite, Dr. Brown's Diet Black Cherry.
Oh yeah, and their celery soda. They have that cool celery soda.
Right. I mean, you can't get some of that stuff here, as you know. But
Amazon.
There you go.
That's
Amazon,
where we get
you can
it
get
from.
everything now from Amazon.
Exactly. So is that kind of what you miss from growing up in Cincinnati? That's the Midwestern comfort food, right?
Oh yeah. I always miss that, and a lot of my folks are still living back there, so they'll like I said, they'll send me like the Skyline packets and the ice cream sometimes. Yeah, that's the thing I really do miss. Just that real comforty stuff that just reminds me of my childhood. That's great. Just so familiar.
So you had the pleasure of cooking in the James Beard competition in New York. Was that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And you when was that? When did you do that?
That was in November, a week before Thanksgiving, 2013.
Right. And did they give you free reign on what you could prepare for them when you came up there?
Yes. What we did was we worked around the wine. So our sommelier here, Jeremy, had we know what we like in wines, and picked the bottles and sipped on the bottles and just brainstormed and got to do some really cool pairings with that. So that's what we went off of. We went off of the wine,
sure.
and we did 3 or 4 hors d'oeuvres, and we did a 6-course meal off of all those wines.
Outstanding.
Yeah, it was great.
And you do a cooking school, don't you, at Triple Creek?
Yeah, we do a few of them. We do a couple of them in the wintertime. We just did our Valentine's Day cooking school weekends, which went really well. And you know what? Even if a guest just wants to do a little school, you know, during the season, we'll do like a little session in the kitchen also. But yeah, we got an awesome facility on ranch where we do our cooking schools.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So are you going to ever write your own cookbook? Is that something that you have in mind, or is that something you want to do?
You know, it's been thrown out there. When we do so many recipes for guests that request them. There's a lot of them, and we have gotten that. We've had that demand to do something like that, and I think one day it's going to happen.
So when you were when you first got the bug to be a chef,
mm-hmm.
was there a cookbook? I remember, in my mom's kitchen there was The Joy of Cooking, the quintessential blue covered cookbook that you'd always go to as the go-to recipes. When you first got started, was there something like that was your Bible for getting your introduction to the to being a chef?
There was like I said, I like to cook Mexican food a lot at home, that kind of thing.
Right.
The first book that I really remembered was a Rick Bayless book. Like one of his first ones.
Right.
And also a Wolfgang Puck book, like when he first kind of put things out there. And of course, I'm sure my mom had a Joy of Cooking book also.
Yeah, that was a standard.
And that's a great book.
Yeah.
It's got some really cool standbys, just good recipes.
Right.
In there.
I mean, if you peek into the a library in a home of somebody who cooks well, you'll see Joy of Cooking. You might see one of Julia Child's books.
Mm-hmm.
You might see, even Emeril, one of Emeril Lagassi's, books when he was kind of the first guy that I remember. I'm sure there were others, but the first guy that got that kind of notoriety, on BAM and, doing the TV stuff that got you interested in really revisiting the art of cooking.
Yeah. There was this great program I used to watch. It was on PBS. It was called Chefs of the World.
Yes.
And they'd feature... have a little music thing, and then they'd feature a chef somewhere. It's all around the world, and I remember that was a really cool
show,
cool program. Yeah.
So there's one that I've been watching lately. I'll give you a tip. You may have seen it. There's a show on PBS called "I'm Having What Phil's Having."
Mm-hmm.
And it's Phil Rosenthal, who was the creator of the Ray Romano Show and the writer for that. He's now going around the world, Tokyo, Paris, all sorts of places, and visiting restaurants and talking with the chefs and tasting the food, and it's a terrific little show. He's very funny because he was a comedy writer. And he's not any expert at food. He just likes to eat, and so it's if you get a chance, if you're bored one night, take a look at the show. I'm Having What Phil's Having. You might enjoy looking at it.
That sounds good. I'll check it out.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is good stuff.
This is terrific. We really appreciate you taking the time. I know you got guests down there
Jacob.
Clamoring for food right now, and we appreciate your being with us, and we look forward to coming down and visiting with you.
And Jacob, how can people get in touch with you if they want to know, like, getting your recipes or anything like that? Like, what's the best way? Do you have a blog or a website that you're promoting?
Yeah, just go to triplecreekranch.com.
Okay.
And you can go to the dining section.
Okay.
And my email's there. And you can just give me an email.
Terrific.
Yeah, about questions or anything about the ranch.
Terrific. Jacob, it was a pleasure.
Hey, pleasure was all mine. Thanks so much, guys.
You take care.
We'll see you down here.
We're looking forward to it. Cool. Get the car revved up and ready to go.
All righty.
Road trip.
Yep. All right, guys.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was great.
It just makes me hungry talking to him. He's so enthusiastic about food, and but the challenge, I'd be completely, freaked out about a complete menu, different menu every single day.
But he must plan that out. You know, he is. It's like a high wire act, because if his purveyors don't come through with their ingredients, or there's a delay, or
you're getting tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwich, right? That's
exactly. So he's you're right. He is. He made it sound easy.
But you know, even as I joke about tomato soup and grilled cheese, there are now gourmet grilled cheese restaurants. And New York has everything. They have rice pudding restaurants.
I want to know more about his New York experience, because that had to open up his eyes. That's like, going to Vienna for I don't know.
Well, I mean, look how many restaurants there are. I mean, you could spend. I remember reading once, if you went to a different restaurant for every meal, to cover all the major restaurants, not just fast food joints, it would take 55 years or something.
Is that
to
right?
Go to all of them, because there's just so many.
Was there ever like a city, I'll give you an anecdote, but was there ever a moment when you visited a place, and when you got there, you felt like this opened you up, this created another, this allowed you to kind of realize yourself in a way that you had only thought about? You're like, oh, now I get it. Now I get this. Is there any?
Well, you mean in the food, in the food?
In any way, but really food or wine or culture.
Sure. Particularly, I mean, I've been to almost 100 countries.
Right.
And to me, it was Europe, because, and to some extent in China, going to places where things were, in the United States, we've been around since the 1700s. Something from the 1600s is very unusual.
Right.
There are restaurants that are still operating in Europe that started in 800 A.D.
Right.
And so going in and seeing this tremendous history of thousands of years. You go to Asia, you go to places that, 5,000 years ago, there were, thriving cities. I mean, the United States in 1789, there were only 4 million people living here.
Or a blip.
In 1789, China was a completely developed culture. London and Paris were very sophisticated cities. When, if you go back and look at photographs of New York City in the 1850s, it was kind of not much of anything.
Right. It was like Dover, Delaware.
So going to some of the historic capitals of the world, and
where in Europe though? But where in Europe?
Well, I like Venice. I mean, it's a fascinating city.
Right.
Venice. I love Paris. I mean, Paris has got
one that did
everything.
It for me.
I mean, Paris has got everything. Walking around all the different arrondissements and seeing the restaurants and going to the Marais and Montmartre.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you got the sense for look at this, the infrastructure and the history.
Right.
And the sort of the melting pot. I mean, New York is an American melting pot, but it's only a couple of 100-year-old melting pot.
Right.
This is a 2,000-year-old melting pot.
Right.
And it's fascinating for me to go to those places, and I'm drawn to older cities and older cultures because they keep reinventing themselves. I mean, some of the hottest restaurants in the world are in Tokyo.
Right.
There are, the
Berlin.
Michelin star rating is the gold standard of food, right? And, and it was started in France, and there are now, I think, about 80 Michelin-starred restaurants in Paris. But in Tokyo, there are over 237.
That's incredible.
I mean, it's become a huge foodie city, and what's happened is they've taken food that they served for thousands of years and have recreated it into modern interpretations, which are fascinating.
What are you going to do? You're on a diet and you're traveling.
Yeah.
I know you're heading out. You're traveling.
Yeah.
Well, how are you going to eat?
I've been dieting for
you've been dieting for preparation for
preparation for the eat. It's like being in training for a marathon event. I'm in training to eat it, and I'm going to be eating on when I'm traveling. And when I come back, I'll fill you in. I'll give you the litany of food restaurants that I've demolished and fought my way through.
Isn't it interesting when he was talking about the food and he started to describe some of his recipes? And you start to hear, your mouth starts to water, because hearing about food on the radio actually is sometimes more.
Well, you have a visualization in a way.
You're more engaged.
A creative visualization.
Right. You're not just looking at it passively. You're thinking about it, and that's engaging another part of your brain.
Right.
And I think it means more. Food sounds better on the radio. I've always said that.
Sure. Well, I'll give you an example.
It looks better on the radio too.
I was in this restaurant in Barcelona where they were doing this molecular food. There was a bowl of fairly plain broth, and they had globules that were floating in it, and each one had a very bright color, and you scooped it up and you bit into it, and what was inside exploded into your mouth.
Wow.
And one of them had this orangey egg yolk, and so you got this egg explosion. One of them had, sort of beet juice and exploded. One had, Prosecco in it.
Really?
And so every one of these things you picked up and you kind of looked at it and you bit into it, and it gave this exploding flavor in your mouth. It was a very unusual experience.
What's that called?
It's this molecular, it's this molecular culinary school, which is now kind of on its way down, as Jake was saying, and we're moving more into, kind of a different phase in food, which is, the GMO, clean food as opposed to dirty food.
Right, and gluten-free, he was saying. Yeah. I mean, he's talking about that. And you know what? If you walk into the aisle, go into Costco or Fresh Market or any of the aisles of our local supermarkets, it is all gluten-free, and it's properly marked and informing to the buyer, which, 5 years ago, you didn't have all that information available.
No. You go into a typical grocery store today, and over 90% of what's on the shelves weren't on the shelves 3 or 4 years ago. Complete turnover in that.
And branding is so important, too, because stuff that talks to you from the shelf.
Yeah, exactly.
You see Target's launching this whole new brand that they've got going on. I don't know if you've seen the advertising.
Yes.
What is it called? Today or something? But it's so appetizing. It looks so good and so new and so cutting edge. They're really good. I mean, that's what it's about.
Yeah. Well, let's get out of here and get a hot dog. Okay?
You want to get a hot dog?
I'm ready for one.
All right. Well, you're listening to What Do You Know? That was a great show, Arnie. And this is What Do You Know on Newstalk KGVO 101.5 FM, AM 1290, and newstalkkgvo.com. We'll see you next week.